Hello and welcome to National Focus. I am Octavia Prosper. In the headlines, Grand Bay Primary School to be renamed after the late Honourable Edward Regis. State funeral for Mr. Patrick Roland John, former Prime Minister of Dominica. And Prime Minister Skerrit says Dominica forges ahead despite COVID-19 pandemic. Details of the headline stories and more when we return. Welcome back. Dominica continues to mourn the loss of Honourable Edward Regis, Minister of State in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, International Business and Diaspora Relations, and Parliamentary Representative for the Grand Bay constituency, following his passing on the morning of September 1, 2021. Minister Regis served in many roles during his lifetime, including Public Relations Officer of the WASCO and Deputy Speaker of the House of Assembly. On Saturday, September 11, the Dominica Labour Party, led by Prime Minister Honourable Roosevelt Skerrit, held a memorial service to honour the legacy of Honourable Edward Regis. During his remarks, Prime Minister Honourable Roosevelt Skerrit announced the Grand Bay Primary School will be renamed in honour of the late Honourable Edward Regis.
Ed was also passionate about the rehabilitation of the Grand Bay Primary School, and it truly pains me that he will not be here to see the results of the project to which he was so committed. This particular project, I believe, shall be completed in memory of Ed and regarded as a tangible example of the projects he championed while alive. In this regard, ladies and gentlemen, friends, comrades all, when the Grand Bay Primary School will be completed, it shall be renamed the Edward Regis Primary School.
5 students of the Grand Bay Primary School will also receive scholarships to attend the Pearchild Secondary School.
5 scholarships to attend the Pearchild Secondary School will be awarded to deserving students of the Grand Bay constituency. These scholarships, which shall be in the honor of Ed Regis, shall be awarded annually.
Prime Minister Skerrit says although Honourable Regis' time as the MP for the Granby constituency was short-lived, he contributed to the major development of the constituency.
When he became the parliamentary representative for the Granby constituency in December 2019, he simply continued his mission to empower every constituent with access to education, improved housing, and a better standard of living. In such a short space of time, we have seen the results of his hard work. Over 35 families have moved into new homes, and plans are well advanced for an additional 60 new homes to be constructed for the people of Granby. Work is near completion on the rehabilitation of the Granby playing field, a project that was very important to Ed, as he wished to see sports return to the community following the devastation of Hurricane Maria.
Prime Minister Skerrit says Cabinet will honor Honourable Regis by working towards the many programs that he recommended.
His sudden passing has also reinforced our commitment in the Cabinet to seek to implement the many plans and programs that Ed recommended. This, I believe, is the greatest honor we can pay to Ed, working to help his people achieve their dreams and aspirations for a better, more progressive Granby.
Prime Minister Skerrit called on citizens to remember Honourable Edward Regis as a champion for Dominica.
This gesture by the Dominica Labour Party allows us to remember the man with the big heart who loved his family and friends unconditionally. He was a champion for his family, a champion for Granby, a champion for the Dominica Labour Party, and a champion for Dominica. We grieve his loss, but remember always his exceptional leadership at the community and national level. His commitment to the advancement of his people and country, and his love for his friends, constituents, and family. So today, my dear friends, we salute our fallen comrade, Honourable Edward Regis. He will always be loved. He will forever be remembered. His legacy will live on. And in Ed's own voice, I shout, Labour!
The funeral of former Prime Minister of Dominica, Mr. Patrick Roland John, will be held on Wednesday, September 29, 2021. In accordance with the Cabinet decision of July 31, 2001, the late Patrick Roland John, being a former Prime Minister, shall be accorded a state funeral. As such, Cabinet has directed a 3-day period of mourning beginning Monday, September 27 to Wednesday, September 29, 2021 to be observed. The Dominican flag shall be flown at half-staff on all public buildings in the state on the official day of mourning. Mr. Patrick Roland John served as Dominica's first Prime Minister from November 3, 1978 to June 21, 1979, after leading the island to political independence from Great Britain. Prior to independence, Mr. John served as Premier of Dominica from July 26, 1974 to November 3, 1978. Further details of the lying-in-state, funeral, and burial will be provided in a subsequent statement. Prime Minister Honourable Roosevelt Skerrit is reiterating his call for Dominicans to continue following health protocols. The ongoing wave of the COVID-19 virus on the island has created the need for heightened health protocols to limit the spread of the virus. Prime Minister Skerrit says despite the pandemic, Dominica is forging ahead with several new initiatives proposed in this year's budget while managing the current surge of the virus.
COVID has to be managed. And in tandem with that, the business of the state has to continue. This is why, as a government, we are also preoccupied with advancing and implementing the many plans and programs contained in the recently passed budget of 2021-2022. And I have directed my cabinet colleagues to move ahead with effecting the plans approved in the budget in the respective ministries and departments. And I can assure you that work is poised to move ahead on many initiatives.
He says activity in tourism continues to flourish while operating under strict health and safety guidelines.
Activity in tourism continues, even with the restrictions on travel worldwide. We are seeing the weekly arrival of cruise ship visitors to the island under the strictest health and safety guidelines. This, I think, is one clear example of the commitment of this government to keep the wheels of the economy turning in the face of this dire health crisis. And from all reports, I'm told that those who are involved in providing services to the cruise visitors this past week was a very successful week for all of them.
The nation's leader continued to call for Dominicans to support the government in its fight to maintain the health and wellness of the nation.
Our job as a government is to ensure that the livelihood of every single citizen is maintained and protected, and that people can continue to go about their daily business of life and work. It is a delicate balancing act, and I ask for your support of our efforts to protect health and the health of our vulnerable children and the elderly, while finding ways to keep establishments open so that people can work and employees can pay their wages.
Encouraging Dominicans to get vaccinated against COVID-19, the Prime Minister says government has taken a measured approach to managing the spread of the virus. He says these measures are not put in place to frustrate citizens or restrict their freedom, but to limit the spread of the virus.
We're taking a measured approach, and this measured approach is absolutely necessary. It is not meant to frustrate, and our wish is certainly not to restrict anyone. But might I remind you, my dear friends, we are in the middle of a raging health crisis that affects us all. And so the task of overcoming this pandemic is not only for government, as I have said. We all must play our part. We need the cooperation and support of every one of you in this country. And there are so many ways you can help. We have spoken about this before, and I have been very clear. First, it is in your best interest to get vaccinated.
Meantime, the Prime Minister acknowledged concerns regarding the economic impact on the island and reiterated his call for Dominicans to work together in the fight against the virus through vaccination.
We cannot shy away from a discussion about the debilitating impact that widespread COVID-19 infection will have on economies and livelihoods. Business leaders are the ones who are best placed to weigh in on this issue. And I must make it very clear, they do not speak for me, and I do not speak for them. But they do have a right to an assessment of the situation and the potential long-term economic fallout. At some point, we're going to have to come to terms with the fact that only collective action can help us turn this situation around. This is why I continue to encourage you to get tested and get vaccinated.
You're watching National Focus. More when we return.
This is CARACOM Secretary General Irwin LaRock. I took the jab, the COVID-19 vaccine. I'm encouraging you, my brothers and sisters, to join me. Take the jab and observe the protocols. We're saving lives and jobs.
Raise your voices high.
The government of Dominica continues to develop other ways to assist with the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. More in this report. This has a new testing initiative known as the Stadium Drive-Thru, kicked off at the Windsor Park Sports Stadium on Tuesday, September 7, 2021. The Stadium Drive-Thru allows individuals to access the testing site while remaining in their vehicles, where the test is then self-administered. Once the results are ready, they are then sent electronically to that person. This new milestone is a collaboration between the government of Dominica through the Ministry of Health, Wellness and New Health Investment and Graduate Medical Education Directory, GMed Global. Dr. Kerry James is the Chief Operations Officer of GMed Global. He gave a brief overview of the organization.
GMed Global is a U.S.-based healthcare company. We work in medical education and training. We work in procurement for healthcare, and we also work in healthcare delivery. Over the past 18 months of this pandemic, we've trained 1,000 critical care nurses in the Middle East for Ministry of Health out there. We've worked across the United States, becoming one of the largest private providers of COVID testing, and in our case really focusing on rapid COVID testing that's medically useful, highly accurate, fast, so results so patients can take action.
He says the medical staff received the necessary training to obtain accurate test result.
Kind of the medium term is we wanted to make sure that everyone here was trained within the healthcare apparatus, was trained on the test and the machine that's used. There's no really interpretation error. It's either positive, minus result, or a failed result that you get back from the machine. And it's very straightforward. So we've done the training to make sure that after we return back to the United States, everything's set up here.
The donation of an ultra-low vaccine freezer along with the equipment and other testing kits was to the tune of $300,000.
We've donated computers, iPhones, testing machines, tests themselves, and I have to say the healthcare professionals here are showing us a thing or two with our tests, even with our year or more of using them in the United States. Everybody took to them immediately here and are kind of finding out their own flow of testing. So we couldn't be happier with that. And we're also sending down a -86 deep freeze, and then also all the equipment that records the temperature in those freezers. We've gone through a certification process with those freezers to make sure they're calibrated. All the data loggers for those freezers are calibrated. Our initial donation was 1,200 tests back in the United States. Those tests would have cost patients about $180,000. The freezer, including all the extra equipment and shipping and all those things, will be well in excess of $30,000. The freezer itself can actually store about 16,000 Pfizer vaccines, so it's a significant piece of apparatus for any vaccines.
Dr. James says the decision to assist Dominica was a very easy one.
Dr. Bagapur, through his company GMed, has become very successful, but he also never forgets where he came from, and so his medical degree was earned coming through Dominica, and Dominica's remained very close to him. And so when we saw the news from August, Dominica, which had fared so well during the pandemic, and often in the news for that, we saw that things got difficult in August, and immediately Dr. Bagapur reached out here to the government in Dominica, to the Prime Minister's office, to the Ministry of Health, and said, what can we do? We'll do anything to help.
Director of Student Services for GMED Global, Dr. Mason Philpott, gave details of the stadium drive-through process.
When someone pulls up to the stadium, they now have the option of a drive-through test where you don't have to exit your vehicle. You can drive up. There is some information that the Ministry of Health needs from you for their own databases. And then there's also a card with your basic information. So we now have the option to send you an email with the results. People can also come back and get the card. I know it's used as a permit to get into certain places here in Dominica, but it doesn't require you to exit the car.
Dr. Philpott says the self-administering test has assisted with minimizing the anxiety related to the invasive testing technique.
We use a mid-nasal swab, which so many people who tested multiple times here in Dominica were very happy when they got this opportunity for another test because it's a lot less painful, much less innovative, and what we know from our practice in the U.S., it makes people more likely to get tested. So there's not the hesitancy of, oh, you know, is this going to hurt? So it's very exciting. I was surprised at the feedback that we got from the Dominicans who've come and gotten tested so far.
He says the same results can be obtained from both swabbing techniques.
When you look at the data, a mid-nasal swab is just as accurate as a deep nasal swab. If you're infected with the virus, it's not hiding out just in the back of your nose. It's going to be all throughout your nose. So this has already been, we have the data. There have been multiple studies in the U.S. on this, and it's just as effective for a mid-nasal swab versus a deep nasal swab.
Meantime, Mrs. Gemma Lawrence, who took her first COVID test at the stadium drive-through, spoke of her experience and encouraged other individuals to get tested.
I think the experience was really good. It's really nice not having to come out and maybe be faced with a bunch of other people. And it was nice because I sat in my car, I did my test myself, and it was controlled, and I was very impressed. Come out, get tested, make sure you know what your status is, and then do the right things, practice all the protocols, and get vaccinated.
Monsignor Eustace Thomas also shared some words of advice to the general public.
I administered to myself in both nostrils, and all things, everything went well, no fear whatsoever. It was very quick. Everyone was come for this test and accept the vaccine. I'm a clergyman, ask all clergymen to come for the vaccine and have this test.
The Ministry of Health advises everyone to get tested and know their COVID-19 status, as Dominica, like the rest of the world, continues its fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. Octavia Prosper for the Government Information Service. The government of the People's Republic of China donated 30,000 COVID-19 antigen test kits to Dominica. The donation took place on Friday, September 10 at the Chinese Embassy. These test kits will assist Dominica in the fight against COVID-19 as the country is currently on a testing and know your status drive. Prime Minister Skerrit thanked the People's Republic of China for their tangible support to Dominica in the fight against COVID-19.
I express on behalf of the government of Dominica our profound gratitude and thanks to the Chinese Embassy, the Charge d'Affaires and his staff, and of course to President and the Premier of China and the government and people of China for their continued tangible manifestation of support to us in Dominica as we confront this COVID-19. From the inception of this virus, the presence of the virus in the Caribbean, and Dominica included, China has been providing us with tremendous support.
Prime Minister Skerrit says this Dominica Labour Party government's objective has always been to ensure the safety of all citizens.
And doing everything humanly possible to ensure that our citizens who get infected with this virus can survive it.
Minister for Health, Wellness and New Health Investment, Honourable Dr. Irvin McIntyre, says China is also facing their own challenges with the pandemic, but is still committed to helping Dominica.
We have to appreciate the fact that it's a pandemic and you also have your challenges, and even within your challenges, you're able to donate such supplies to us. And it really means a lot, and we're very much appreciative of such an effort and a donation of supplies to us. So thank you very much, appreciate it.
Minister for Foreign Affairs, International Business and Diaspora Relations, Honourable Dr. Kenneth Daru, also expressed gratitude for what he described as a timely donation.
I would like the Prime Minister and of course my colleague Minister of Health have done before me, to express our sincere thanks to the government and people of the People's Republic of China for this timely donation. The Prime Minister and the Minister of Health has already expounded how timely this is. Dominica currently undergoing experiencing a surge in cases, and we have a very aggressive testing program going on. So these test kits will certainly go a long way in arming us, increasing our armory in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic.
China's ambassador to Dominica, His Excellency Lu Kun, says China has made several donations to Dominica since the country recorded its first case.
When the pandemic broke out in Dominica, China also managed to donate more than 10 batches of medical supplies. The main items including 20,000 PCR test kits, 20,000 Sinopharm vaccines, 15 ventilators, and today we are donating the 30,000 antigen test kits. As well to know all that this test kit is a rapid test kit. You can get a result in about 15 minutes. So that is a very useful tool for the large-scale screen, especially in the case of the surgery or used at the airport of the seaports.
2 weeks ago, Dominica received from China 10,000 PCR test kits. And now your weather update. Moisture and instability following the passage of a tropical wave is expected to maintain increased cloudiness with some scattered showers and a chance of isolated thunderstorms, mainly across the northern portion of the Les Antilles, including Dominica. Thereafter, another tropical wave is expected to move across the island chain from tonight. Instability associated with this wave can be expected to linger into Wednesday. People in areas prone to flooding, landslides, and falling rocks should remain vigilant during the period. Moderate seas are anticipated during the next 24 hours, with waves peaking to 7 feet along the eastern coastline. Small craft operators and sea bathers should continue to exercise caution. And that's all for this edition of National Focus. Be sure to follow GIS Dominica on Facebook, YouTube, as well as on Twitter. You can also drop us an email at gis@dominica.gov.dm. From all of us here on the GIS News Production team, I am Octavia Prosper. Thanks for watching.